Many of us have dreams. Martin Luther King, as Jonathan said, had a dream. I'm pretty sure David had a few dreams. I have a few nightmares, but I do have dreams. And you know, I was preparing for this sermon, and I was doing all this research, and I got all this sermon here, and then God said, yeah, I got a dream, and it's nothing to do with what you've got written down here. So we're going to go with whatever comes out of my mouth this morning. Okay. Now, there is some of it that I know I've got to use. But so we're in a sermon series looking at ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And Sandra kicked us off last week with Gideon. And those of you who don't know the story of Gideon, well, Gideon had a bit of a rough trot. He had to do all this fighting, and then God said, no, you can't fight with that many people. You have to shrink it down, and then you have to shrink it down, you have to shrink it down. And actually ended up with fighting just with this few people, but still, he did win the battle.
Amen.
And why was that? Because he followed God's instructions. Now, if he tried to do it his own way, it would have come out very different. And when we look at David today, David had to follow God's instructions. Now, David was a shepherd. Now, I don't know how many of you have been around shepherds in the rural hills of Judah. Just me. Okay. They stink. Sheep smell. They really do. But David was a shepherd. Now, this is, not a high qualifying paying job. This is kind of low on the scale of things to do. But he was also a musician as well. And that was pretty up there because the king enjoyed that and invited him to play the harp for him. But he was an ordinary boy. He was brought up, there was 8 of them in the family, and he was brought up doing this work in the fields, looking after the sheep, chasing those little naughty ones that run off, and keeping them all together. And I'm pretty sure at the time he was doing that, he had absolutely no idea of the political climate that was going on around him. A bit like our youngsters today, probably Trey, maybe Jamie. Not a lot of idea of what's happening in the world today. Blissful ignorance, isn't it wonderful? Right? Truly it is wonderful. And yet, he was in the midst of this political turmoil. Sound familiar? Where nothing was as God had it planned. And so, he was called from this kind of work that he did to be king. Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody asked me to be king, I would know. No thanks, I've seen what the Queen of England has to do, and no thank you very much. And yet he was called by the prophet Samuel to do God's work and to become king. Now, I don't know how many of you know that he was king of Judah, but also king of Israel. And that's 2 different jobs. But he didn't go straight into being king of Israel. It actually took about 7 years. There was the son of Saul was king for a while, and he wasn't particularly good at it. So he was made king, and he had to do all these things as king to bring peace into where he was. Now, if any of you were focusing on the second reading this morning, you will see it wasn't very nice. I am not telling you all of this so that you go out and hamstring people or horses. Okay, I'm just saying. But this is what he did at the time. And God said to him, when he wanted to build a temple of praise to God, no. You have hurt and killed too many people. How would that be if you think you are following God to the end of the world and want to build a temple of praise to God, and God says, I think a few of us have done things, maybe not physically hamstringing. If you don't know what that is, I'll tell you afterwards, it's a bit graphic. But not being nice to people and animals. How many of you have emotionally not been nice to other people? And therefore, where God would place you is a different place because of that. Because you have lessons to learn. David, in all of this, his ordinariness, did extraordinary things. You know, we hear the story of the sling and Goliath. He did extraordinary things. But even though he was called by God and he followed God's will, he still got it wrong sometimes. And I think that he is our reminder that even though we are ordinary people being called to do extraordinary things, that if we're like David, it's okay. You know, sometimes we make mistakes. People, I don't know if you know this, some of you I know don't do this, but put pastors on pedestals. And I said the first week I was here, if you put me up here, I'm going to fall off pretty jolly quick. Right? And we do that with characters in the Bible as well, because we think, oh, they're so like mighty, like David. They did mighty things. If I don't get anywhere near that, then I'm not doing enough for God. Well, let me tell you that like the quilting bee that sit and make quilts every year to help the homeless are ordinary people doing extraordinary things that will change their lives.
Yeah, that's right. Amen.
So we don't all have to be kings and queens. Glad you called me up. But we are called to do extraordinary things for God. And when we're called to do them, it might be in our best interest to do them God's way instead of ours. It might turn out just a little bit better. Martin Luther King. Oh, actually, I've got an interesting fact for you about David. Did you know that David was not his birth name? It may not have been his birth name. They think there is discussion about his birth name being Elhanan. Because when a king is crowned as like this massive celebration and they get their title and they are given a name as a king. Yes. I don't want to miss that bit because I like to give you interesting facts. Interestingly, Martin Luther King, ordinary man, doing extraordinary things, wasn't born Martin Luther King. Did you know that? Yes. What was he born? Michael. Because of another extraordinary person doing extraordinary things, Martin Luther King's father decided to change his name and his son's name to Martin Luther because of Martin Luther and the Reformation. We don't know the impact of these extraordinary things that we do. Now, Martin Luther was doing extraordinary things in Europe, and that impacted the life of this little boy. This little boy, who, let me tell you, was a pretty intelligent little boy. I was reading about his education, and he was so smart that he skipped 2 grades in high school. He started his college education at Morehouse College at the age of 15. Wow. And then after getting his degree in sociology, he got a divinity degree from Crozer Seminary, and then a doctor's degree in theology from Boston University. I get the sense that Martin Luther King Jr. would have done extraordinary things even if he hadn't had that education. Because he had a gift of oration. He had that gift of being able to guide people, gift of being able to rally the troops in civil rights. You know, his first major civil rights boycott was the Montgomery bus. And that took the best part of a year. Did you know that he was jailed 29 times? One of the times he was jailed was for going, get this, 30 miles an hour in 25-mile-an-hour soon. I think there are some of us in this room that might have been in trouble. But we know because of who he was and the colour of his skin. That was why he was jailed. And when we are ordinary people doing extraordinary things, that life is not easy sometimes. And especially if we're part of a minority, but part of a group who is condemned by society. Because everything we try to do, we're seen as a screaming, radical, whatever the name is put to it. But if we're called by God to do that thing, then we battle through that stuff. And King did that. He battled and battled. And you know he was almost killed once before. It was an assassination attempt with a stabbing that nearly got his aorta. And yet he kept going because God called him to do extraordinary things from his ordinariness. He was the youngest person at that time to get a Nobel Peace Prize. And that changed. He stayed the youngest person until 2014 when Malala became the youngest person. Can you imagine her at the age of 17? An ordinary girl that had extraordinary things happen to her has made an impact on the world. You are never too young. You are never too old to have an impact on the world. You are never educated enough or not educated enough to have an impact on the world. Because God uses each of us, and I believe each of us is ordinary. Some of us like to think we're more extraordinary. But God sees all of us as ordinary people with work and with prayer and with following God can do the most amazing things. And if we look back at the history just of this country, how things have changed. They haven't changed because the government changed them. You know, the civil rights didn't change because that mighty government changed them. They changed because of an ordinary man. The land of Israel, things didn't change because the government changed them. They changed because God called David into a position where he could do extraordinary things and change. So I wonder what you and I are being called to. You know, Marge announced at the beginning of the service that we have this visioning day on Saturday, and I can't tell you how important it is for you to be there and share your vision. Because God gives each of us a vision. Now, they should all come together in a nice, neat little plan. Sometimes they're a little on the edges. But God gives us a vision together that we can work to as ordinary people, coming and working for God. You, we, I are called to do extraordinary things. Maybe not a king of the nations. Maybe not the next civil rights activist that changed the world. But to change the life of the people that we encounter. Maybe even to change a small part of our community. But I just want to say that following a life that God is calling you to is not easy. Sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes we have such battles with what we have to do. Battling other people, battling our own demons of self-confidence and things that other people have beaten out of us. But will it be a beautiful thing when it happens? Of course it will. We were talking the other day, we watched the movie Paperclips. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie, but oh my goodness. I encourage all of you to watch it. It's a movie about a school doing a project about the Holocaust. And the teachers had not really, well, they didn't know anything. They knew nothing about the Holocaust. They were in this little town in Western Tennessee, and they were very, I think they described themselves as judgmental Southern kind of Bible Belt people. But they wanted to do a project, and they did this project called Paperclips. And it came about because one person, when they were talking about the Holocaust and 6 million Jews dying, said, I don't know what 6 million Jews looks like. What does it look like? And they started collecting paper clips so that would represent each person that died. This project went worldwide, and it ended up with people that had lived through the Holocaust coming to this little school in the middle of this town that was 1,600 people, and actually finding their healing through these children collecting paper clips. We do not understand the impact that we have through everything we do, and sometimes that impact is not for months or years to come, but we are still called to do it. So whatever you are called to, I encourage you to stay strong, to remind yourself of people like Martin Luther King Jr., David, the people that did the Paperclips project, the impact that God wants through your ordinary life can change lives forever, but only if you're willing.